Here's the confession I've never made out loud. The biggest theft I ever managed wasn't fire, wasn't canoes, wasn't even the sun. It was an island, pulled straight from the ocean floor when all I wanted was a fish to brag about. The ocean groaned, the stars fell silent, and suddenly my hook was heavier than all of my brothers put together. If you've ever made a small mistake that snowballed into something absurd, you already know what this felt like. So before you settle in tonight, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, and let me know in the comments where you are tuning in from and what time it is for you. With that said, this is my confession. Maui, the island thief. So, about last night. If you ask my brothers, they'd tell you they planned a simple fishing trip. No magic, no detours, and absolutely no Maui. They were very clear on that last point. No Maui, they said, like the ocean itself would put up a sign. I agreed with them, of course. I nodded solemnly and said I understood. And then, because I am me, I did what any responsible, trustworthy, completely well-behaved demigod would do. I lied. I told them I wasn't interested in fishing anyway. I had a very important appointment with a hammock and a bowl of roasted breadfruit. I wished them gentle waves, cooperative tuna, and a peaceful dawn. And then I hid behind the boathouse, counted to 100 very slowly, tiptoed along the dock like a cat, and snuck onto the canoe. In my defense, it was a very roomy canoe, and I'm very good at being quiet when I need to be. When I want to be, that is. When I don't, I tend to be the sound of thunder in sandals. I tucked myself under a woven net, pulled a coil of rope over my head like a blanket, and practiced my breathing, deep and slow, like a sleeping seal. If you're listening in bed, you can try it too. In for 4, hold for 2, out for 6. The kind of breath that makes your bones feel like they're floating, the kind that convinces suspicious brothers that nothing interesting is hiding in their fishing gear. They arrived with the soft shuffle of early morning, whispering to each other with the kind of whisper that's too loud to be secret. The sky was still smudged with night. The horizon rubbed silver where the sun would soon lay its hand. The ocean yawned like it had just woken from a very long nap. Even the birds were clearing their throats, practicing their first squawks. "Keep it quiet," one brother said. "Don't jinx it," said another. "And no magic," said the third, louder, as if the canoe might be listening. "We're doing this the normal way." I resisted the urge to sneeze. They pushed the canoe into the water, and the sea took us in, with that gentle lift and settle, lift and settle. The kind of rocking that makes your eyelids heavy, even when you're trying to be on high alert under a pile of rope. If you're drifting as you listen, let yourself sway with it. Lift and settle. Breathe and release. The ocean knows how to hold you. I counted strokes as they paddled. Shh, shh, shh. The sound of blades slipping into silk, the smell of damp wood and salt and morning. Beneath the hull, tiny fish zipped like sparks. Somewhere to the left, a turtle surfaced, sighed, and sank again, unimpressed with all human plans. "Perfect conditions," one brother said. "No wind, no swell. Even the waves are polite. We'll be back before the sun's hot," another promised. I smiled in the dark tangle of net and rope and tried my best not to feel smug. We glided past the reef, past the place where the water changes color like a mood, pale turquoise deepening into thoughtful blue. The canoe creaked in a drowsy way, as if it too could go back to sleep if we let it. The morning star dimmed. The tide drew its long breath. Everything was going according to their plan. And then, of course, there was my plan. Not a plan exactly. A notion. A tingle. The way the air tastes when mischief is perfectly ripe. I would stay hidden. I would behave. I would not use magic. I would absolutely not fish with the hook that absolutely was not tucked under my elbow right now, wrapped in cloth and humming with the faint, happy purr of power. We all tell ourselves comforting bedtime stories. The brothers dropped anchor in a patch of water so calm it looked like folded silk. They set about the business of normal fishing, checking lines, unspooling nets, pinching bait with the stern dignity of men who have never, not once, been surprised by their younger brother erupting from the cargo like a jack in the canoe. I waited for the moment, some little pocket of soundlessness. The ocean provided it, as oceans do for those who listen. The waves hushed, the birds paused mid-argument, even the sun held its breath just below the edge of the world. I sat up, shook off the rope like a dog shaking out the rain, and said in my friendliest indoor voice, "Good morning." 3 men screamed. One fell backward over a paddle. Another sat right down on a basket of bait. The third clutched his heart, his soul, and possibly his lunch, and wheezed, "What are you doing here?" "Me?" I blinked, innocent as a cloud. "I thought we were all going fishing." "We said no Maui," the eldest hissed. I considered this. "You did." "And I too said no Maui, which is to say, there would be no absence of Maui. So technically, no magic, no mischief, no lying," they chorused. I nodded gravely. Yes, I heard that part too. They opened their mouths to send me back, but the canoe was already bobbing, and the distance to shore was already a story, and I had already unwrapped my hook. Ah, the hook. Let me tell you about it while you settle deeper into your pillow, while your breath softens and your shoulders unknot. It's not the sort of hook you put in a tackle box and forget. It has a life and a listening and a memory the size of the sea. Carved from the jawbone of an ancestor who laughed in storms, polished in the current that runs beneath all currents, it hums even when I don't touch it, and when I do, it shivers like a bird about to lift. It's not invited either, my middle brother said, pointing. Technically, I said, it came as my +1. The youngest rubbed his temples. Please, just this once, can we have a day without you pulling up something impossible? I can do normal, I promised. I can be a model fisherman. Quiet, respectful, dull. Even I smiled in that calm way that never reassures anyone. They scowled in the synchronized way that tells you 3 people have shared one brain for a very long time. All right, the eldest conceded, rubbing the bait off his elbow. 1 cast, 1. Then you sit quietly and help with the nets like a regular person. I love being a regular person, I said, and meant it on a technicality. I tested the line. The morning had reached that blue that almost tips into gold, the hour when the ocean is as smooth as an unwrinkled sheet and the world is almost ready to be awake. I could feel the long, deep hush below us, the old, slow heartbeat of stone and salt and pressure, the place where secrets live. Not deep, the middle brother warned. No funny business. Just a nibble, I said. I stood, which made them wince. The canoe rocked lazily, unconcerned. The horizon lifted its first thread of light. I swung the hook once, twice, like a bell calling nobody in particular, and cast it. It fell with a whisper, slipped beneath the surface without even a splash worth mentioning, and then the line went tight. Not the kind of tight that means a fish. Not the kind of tight that means a whale. Not even the kind of tight that means you've snagged a very rude rock. No, this was the kind of tight that appears in legends. The kind of tight that turns men into exclamation points. The canoe snapped toward the invisible thing below us, and I, being a man of grace and dignity, made a sound like oof. What did you do? The youngest cried, though I hadn't had time to do anything but exist. Pull, I said, because it felt like the right verb. We pulled. Arms, shoulders, backs, breath. Everything hauled in unison. The line sang a note I had never heard, a long silver thread of sound that made the little hairs on my arms sit up and listen. The canoe crept forward as if the ocean floor had a leash on us. Rock, the eldest groaned. You've wedged it under a rock, you show off. It's not a rock, I said, though how I knew, I couldn't have told you. Some things you just know. the way you know when the storm will blink, or when a story wants to be told. "I told you," the middle brother panted. "No, funny." The line jerked again, harder. The canoe lurched. A school of fish exploded from the water like silver sparks, arcing and returning, wondering what new nonsense this was. The horizon unzipped and spilled the first gold of morning. The sea caught the light and tossed it back, brighter. The air filled with that hush that isn't really silence, but something bigger, the attention of everything. "Just keep pulling," I said, even as I felt something in the line shift from resisting us to coming toward us. A slow, inevitable come along, like a mountain deciding to stroll. We pulled. The minutes stretched and thinned. The sun rose the width of a hand. Sweat turned to glitter. Our breath fell into a rhythm that could rock anyone to sleep. So if your eyelids are heavy, let them be heavy, and drift with the stroke pause of our work. The body knows how to rest even inside a story. And then the shadow came. At first I thought it was a cloud. The light dimmed, the world cooled a fraction, and I glanced up, but the sky was clean and blue, with only a feather or two of white drifting nowhere in particular. The shadow was below. A thing moved under us, not fast, not angry, simply present. It widened and widened until it was all around, like someone had drawn the shape of night and set it adrift beneath our canoe. The youngest brother swallowed. "If this is a shark, I'm going to make peace with every bad decision I've ever made." "It's not a shark," I said. "Whale." "Not a whale." "Don't say God," the middle brother begged. "Not before breakfast." I squinted into the water. The shape wasn't the shape of a creature, not exactly. It had edges that weren't edges, and corners that were really curves, and a contour you could only see because it made the world feel different, like standing at the edge of a cliff with a blindfold on and still somehow knowing. The hook hummed softly in my hands, a cat pleased with the bird it had no right to have caught. "Pull," I said again, because verbs were in short supply. We pulled. The seconds broke into long, slow beats. Our muscles shook. The canoe creaked. The ocean considered us like a parent deciding whether to let a toddler climb something tall. Then the line gave a lazy, indulgent sigh. Something rose. First, a rumble. Not loud, just large, like stone clearing its throat. The water bulged as if it had been holding its belly in. Fish streamed outward in radiant panic. A turtle who had seen too much in this life lifted for a look, frowned in turtle, and swam on. Then, sand. A pale, rippling skin appearing just under the surface, like the back of a colossal sleeping thing. Then, rocks, knuckling up through the water with a patient insistence. Then, trees, which is when everyone who was not me forgot how to think. Because trees have a way of clarifying a situation. Rocks could be rocks, sand could be sand, but when a grove of wet, dripping trees rose from a place that had been a flat horizon 10 breaths ago, the mind stops filing and starts staring. Sprays of foam clapped their hands. The first branches shivered like dogs. Fronds shook off their pearls of sea. Leaves blinked at sunlight like eyes waking after a long dark. "Say it," the eldest whispered. I did not say it was a fish. "It's an island," the middle brother breathed, and the word felt strange in the air, like we'd invented it just now. A ridge shouldered up, slick with newborn waterfalls. The water lapped and wrapped and slid away, adjusting, making room. The island lifted higher and higher, unapologetic, like a guest who has arrived exactly on time and expects the table to have been set. I should tell you that the ocean protested. It did, but without malice. The waves slapped our canoe in a scolding way, like a mother wiping crumbs from a child's face. "What is this? Where did you get it? Return it this instant." But even as the sea scolded, it accommodated. Currents curled around the new shape and learned it. Swells rerouted themselves as if adding a new verse to an old song. Birds appeared from everywhere. Don't ask me how. Birds always know. They circled and called accusations downward. Who invited this? Who altered the map? Who moved the cheese? Birds have odd metaphors. The island did what islands do, existed. It stretched, it breathed, it let water drain away in sparkling streams that cut their first paths with the confidence of veterans. It settled itself with a sound like the world adjusting its shoulders. We sat, lines slack now, mouths open, three brothers and a Maui, in the company of a continent that hadn't been here yesterday. "Put it back," the eldest said at last, hoarse. I looked at the island. I looked at my hook, which hummed a smug little hymn. I looked at my brothers. "Right," I said. "Let me just find the return to sender button." "That's not funny," the middle brother muttered. "It's a little funny," I confessed, "but only a little." We drifted toward a new shoreline that hadn't finished inventing itself yet. Sand unrolled like a fresh mat. Shells clicked and clinked and sorted themselves by size, fussy as aunties. Crab-shaped thoughts scuttled. A fringe of baby mangroves peeked up like a hairstyle. I stepped out of the canoe, and the beach was warm, which surprised me. Warm like a held stone. Warm like bread. I wiggled my toes. The grain of the sand had that newness to it, the squeak underfoot, the way it holds the shape of your heel as if it wants to remember you personally. Behind us, the ocean lifted a single polite wave and set it down with the weary sigh of a guardian who knows exactly how this story will go and has accepted it. "Don't touch anything," the eldest ordered me, which was adorable. I touched a tree. It pulsed under my palm, sap tickling up in shy spirals. A bird fluffed above my head and sneezed in what I can only describe as judgment. A lizard performed push-ups at me, which was probably an insult in lizard. "It's not staying," the middle brother insisted, as if the island might feel persuaded. "We'll unhook it. We'll reverse whatever you did." "What I did?" I said. "I was told to do normal fishing. I cast a line. Something bit. It came along. If anyone is to blame, it's the ocean for being so available." The youngest kicked the sand and got into a philosophical argument with it. "This can't be happening." The sand won. We spent a long minute just listening. The island made soft new sounds, water finding cracks, leaves trying on breezes, a rock acclimating to sunlight with tiny snaps. Farther inland, the beginnings of a stream stitched itself downward, deciding where to elbow and where to bend, laughing a little as it figured out gravity. If your breathing has grown slow, let these small noises fill your head like a pocket full of smooth pebbles. Turn one over and another, and notice how the mind becomes very quiet when the world becomes very simple. "I'm not mad," I said, because it sometimes helps. "I'm impressed." "You're not allowed to be impressed with yourself," the eldest replied. "I'm impressed with us," I corrected, with my most generous smile. Team effort. We all pulled. He gave me a look that said, "You are a hurricane in a handsome shirt." We walked the new shoreline. We tested the way the sand held or slid. We learned which rocks pretended to be rocks and which rocks were actually crabs meditating. We discovered a piece of driftwood that had no logical history. We admired a tide pool the size of a sleeping mat, full of tiny clear shrimp that looked like they had been knitted by a grandmother who loved glass. My brothers took notes in the language of men who want to fix things. Where is the anchor? How did the line attach? Can a hook even grab an island? Is this a rock with ambitions or a land with humility? I took different notes. This palm wants to lean left. That boulder will be good to sit on at sunset. The stream is practicing a song in the key of wonder. "Stop naming things," the youngest groaned. "I haven't yet," I said. "I'm still interviewing." He did not ask me to explain because he knows me. and because one does not interrogate a tide while it is coming in. When we had circled back to the canoe, the eldest crossed his arms in a way that suggested he wished to wear them like armor. "All right, here is what will happen. We will push off. We will row to the deepest edge. We will tug whatever knot your mischief has tied and put this back where it came from." "Which is where?" I asked mildly. He opened his mouth and closed it again. "Down," he said finally, which, to be fair, is usually the right answer. We shoved the canoe into the shallows. It resisted like a child called to bathing. The sea accepted it with a resigned noise. We climbed in. The island watched us in that way islands do, patient, unthreatened, sure of the long game. We paddled out to where the blue deepened. The line lay in the water like a sleeping serpent. I took it in hand. It did not feel caught. It felt connected. Not the grip of teeth or stone, but the gentle insistence of a handshake that means don't go yet. "I have something to tell you." "Be careful," the middle brother said. "No heroics," added the eldest. "No puns," said the youngest, who understands the true source of danger. "I make no promises," I told them, "because honesty is sacred." I pulled. The line answered with that same indulgent sigh, like an old auntie giving way on an argument just to see what her nephew will do next. The canoe turned in a lazy arc, nosing along the island's newborn flank. The water around us burbled in low conversation, the kind of sound that makes your shoulders drop, your jaw loosen, your thoughts line up behind one another and go shh, shh, shh. We paused where the drop-off began. The sea changed its posture, no longer lounging, now standing up tall. The color went to the bottom of the bowl. Everything went quiet in that way that means everything is listening carefully for the next part of the story. "Here," I said. "Here?" the eldest repeated, incredulous. "What is here?" "Where the knot would be," I said, "if there were knots in the fabric of the world, which there are not, obviously, unless there are." The brothers looked at me the way men look at clouds that may become storms. "Gently," I promised and tugged. The island did not move. The ocean did, very slightly, as if to say, "I see you. Mind your manners." I tugged again with more respect. The line thrummed. Somewhere beneath us, something smiled with 30,000 teeth that were not teeth, not literally. Don't panic. Breathe in. Breathe out. It was the smile a continent makes when it remembers it can float. "Stop," the middle brother said. "Go on," the youngest said. "Do not encourage him," the eldest said, "because he lives in the world and understands it." I closed my eyes and listened with my hand. If you're drifting, you can do the same. Let your hand become an ear. Let your ear become a hand. Feel the way the world hums under the skin. Feel the way it answers you, even when you think you are very small. "It doesn't want to go back," I said simply. "It's an island," the eldest snapped. "It does not want anything." We all looked at the island, which gleamed with the unmistakable satisfaction of a thing that very much wanted to be where it was, and had gotten its way. "Maybe it heard there were better views up here," I offered. No one laughed, but the ocean did, just a little as a ripple. "Then we cut the line," the eldest declared. "We cut it, we apologize to the sea, we row home, and we deny everything." I considered the line. I considered the hook, which purred in my palm like a creature who had brought a mouse to the door and was waiting to be praised for the gift. I considered the island, which had, very rudely, some would say, decided to exist right in the path of ordinary plans. "Cutting it," I said, "would be rude." "You are a hurricane in a handsome shirt," the eldest repeated from earlier, though he had not said it out loud then. Some thoughts echo. "Let me try something gentler," I suggested. "No magic," 3 voices warned at once. "None," I promised and meant it, because what I had in mind was not magic so much as manners. I bent to the water and spoke the old way, the way of please and thank you, and I see you, and if you are willing. The words that are less about the saying and more about the listening. The sea accepted the sound the way a grandmother accepts a basket of mangoes, with a sideways smile that says, "This is how you should have come in the first place." "Thank you," I told it, "for the island." The ocean lifted the canoe a fraction, which in ocean means you're welcome. "Thank you," I told the island, "for arriving." The wind moved through the first row of trees and left them tidier. "If I let go," I asked softly, not a demand, not a bargain, just a question, "will you stay kindly? Will you fit yourself to the paths of the water and the flight of the birds and the bellies of the turtles? Will you be a good neighbor?" The island settled, sand drawing an even line like a well-made bed. "All right," I said, and opened my hand. The hook did not want to go. It clung the way a puppy clings to your ankle in play. But I am stronger than a puppy, even a magical one. The line slipped through my fingers and went down, 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 the hum fading until it was only a memory at the fingertips. We drifted in a brief, perfect stillness. Waves resumed their easy arithmetic. Birds took back up their arguments. The sun found its proper brightness. The island breathed in and breathed out and kept on being exactly there. My brother stared at me and then at the island and then at me again. The eldest rubbed his face with both hands the way a man tries to rub a dream out of his beard. "Explain," he said finally. I considered this request and declined it politely. "Breakfast?" I suggested. I find explanations very thin on an empty stomach. We beached the canoe on our new beach because that is how it felt now. Ours in, the way a story becomes yours once you know it by heart. We built a small fire from driftwood that must have floated a long way to be precisely here at precisely this hour. We cooked fish that had the misfortune to be normal in a strange morning. We ate in the shadow of a palm that hadn't existed yesterday and already knew which way it wanted to lean. Between mouthfuls, the youngest asked, "Is this stealing?" He meant the island, of course. He meant, did we take it from the sea, from the map, from whatever had been before? I chewed thoughtfully. The fish had a buttery flake, as if it had spent its life preparing for this one duty. "If a thing asks to be lifted," I said, "and you lift gently and set it down where it can breathe, is that theft? Or is it midwifery?" "Don't use big metaphors on an empty mind," the eldest warned. "I told you, breakfast first," I said, and toasted the island with a charred edge of fish, which is the proper way to welcome any large, unexpected guest. We walked again after we ate, up the slow incline, where the first path always wants to be. The ground was soft in places and firmer in others. It told us where to step if we listened with our feet. A watercourse burbled ahead, carving, practicing. It made mistakes, backed up, tried again. I loved it immediately. At a bend, we found a pool the size of a canoe, clear as patience. Minnows nibbled at nothing in particular. The surface held a perfect picture of the sky. When a breeze passed, the picture rippled but did not break. If your eyelids have slipped closed, you may see it anyway, the way reflections let the world be twice itself without becoming crowded. "People will notice," the middle brother said softly. "They'll come." He didn't say whether he meant trouble or company. Out here they arrive as twins. "Let them," I said. "Islands are for being lived upon and told about." "And you will tell it as what?" the eldest asked. "An accident? A theft? A gift?" I looked down into the pool where our faces hung like fruit. "Confession," I said. "I'll tell it as a confession. Not because I did wrong exactly, but because, well, it feels like admitting something to a friend." "To who?" the youngest asked. "To anyone who listens," I said, and then, since the hour had gentled itself into the kind of warmth that makes eyelids heavy, and the breeze had settled into the more confident voice it uses after the sun has fully arrived, I laid back on a flat rock pillowed my head on my forearms, and told the island the rest of my secrets. The small ones, the important ones, the embarrassing ones that are only funny once the telling has smoothed the sting. The rock was warm, the kind of warm that remembers, the kind of warm that pours into your bones and tells them it is safe to loosen their grip on the day. If you are drifting, let the rock be your mattress, the breeze your blanket, the trickle of the water your clock, counting a time that is kinder than the other kind. The brothers sat, they listened. Not to me, at least not at first, but to the way the island made a place for them without asking anything in return. It is a rare thing to be welcomed by something that did not exist yesterday, and yet seems to have waited for you all your life.
We name nothing, not yet. Naming is a promise, and we were sleepy, and promises should not be made by sleepy men. Instead, we napped in shifts, because even joy requires a lookout. While I slept, the eldest watched the line where the sea met the new land, as if expecting them to argue. They did not. While he slept, the middle brother inspected the canoe, as if expecting it to crumble at the audacity it had witnessed. It did not. While he slept, the youngest counted birds, and gave up when the numbers became large and soft and comfortably wrong. When it was my turn, I woke to a sky arranged into little sails of cloud, and I thought of how we had set out to catch fish, and had caught a place to sit instead. A good trade. The afternoon took on that slow, honeyed quality where time decides to melt and stay put. We explored more, gently. We found a rock outcrop that pretended to be a fortress and then a throne. We found a cove that shaped its waves into shelves so the water could come ashore wearing lace. We found a tree with leaves so large they could have been the hands of a kindly giant, ready to shade whoever asked politely. At the tree, an owl opened one eye, daylight is not her favorite, considered us, and resumed the study of her nap. I took this as a blessing. When the guardians of the night sleep comfortably in the day, the balance is pleased. I suppose, the eldest said at last, because eldest brothers are obligated to suppose things, we should make a plan. Plan? Echoed the youngest, less enthusiastically. A good plan, the middle agreed, because he loves verbs with structure. They looked at me with that expression that says, you are the cause of this, and also the person who will make it worse, and also the person who will save us at the last possible moment. We resent and depend on you equally. All right, I said, sitting up, brushing sand from my shoulders, and adopting the posture of a man prepared to invent an organized future out of a spontaneous miracle. Here is the plan. I paused to let the waves provide a drum roll. They refused, which is their right. First, we take responsibility. We will not tell this as an accident we had nothing to do with. We will not shrug and say mysterious things happen and walk away like men from a spilled basket. We will tell it as it is. We pulled, and the island rose. That makes us sound guilty, the middle brother sighed. Only to those who think the sea wants to keep all her treasures to herself, I said. Second, we inquire. We ask the island what it wants from us, where to walk, where not to step, what it will give if we give in return. The island does not talk, the eldest said, but he said it quietly, as if he suspected otherwise. It talks, I said, in the same way rivers talk, with inclination. I pointed at the path our feet had found without trying. See? We've been listening all day. And third, I concluded, we make breakfast again tomorrow morning, on a fire that smells just like this one, and think our next thoughts then. Never trust a plan made by men who have just invented a shoreline. They stared at me, then at the fire, then at the island, which was now wearing evening very becomingly. The sky had already begun boiling the gold into peach, simmering the peach into apricot, slipping a grape blue in along the edges for contrast. The first star pried open one bright eye. We name nothing, not yet. Naming is a promise, and we were sleepy, and promises should not be made by sleepy men. Instead, we napped in shifts, because even joy requires a lookout. While I slept, the eldest watched the line where the sea met the new land, as if expecting them to argue. They did not. While he slept, the middle brother inspected the canoe, as if expecting it to crumble at the audacity it had witnessed. It did not. While he slept, the youngest counted birds, and gave up when the numbers became large and soft and comfortably wrong. When it was my turn, I woke to a sky arranged into little sails of cloud, and I thought of how we had set out to catch fish, and had caught a place to sit instead. A good trade. The afternoon took on that slow, honeyed quality where time decides to melt and stay put. We explored more, gently. We found a rock outcrop that pretended to be a fortress and then a throne. We found a cove that shaped its waves into shelves so the water could come ashore wearing lace. We found a tree with leaves so large they could have been the hands of a kindly giant, ready to shade whoever asked politely. At the tree, an owl opened one eye, daylight is not her favorite, considered us, and resumed the study of her nap. I took this as a blessing. When the guardians of the night sleep comfortably in the day, the balance is pleased. I suppose, the eldest said at last, because eldest brothers are obligated to suppose things, we should make a plan. Plan? Echoed the youngest, less enthusiastically. A good plan, the middle agreed, because he loves verbs with structure. They looked at me with that expression that says, you are the cause of this, and also the person who will make it worse, and also the person who will save us at the last possible moment. We resent and depend on you equally. All right, I said, sitting up, brushing sand from my shoulders, and adopting the posture of a man prepared to invent an organized future out of a spontaneous miracle. Here is the plan. I paused to let the waves provide a drum roll. They refused, which is their right. First, we take responsibility. We will not tell this as an accident we had nothing to do with. We will not shrug and say mysterious things happen and walk away like men from a spilled basket. We will tell it as it is. We pulled, and the island rose. That makes us sound guilty, the middle brother sighed. Only to those who think the sea wants to keep all her treasures to herself, I said. Second, we inquire. We ask the island what it wants from us, where to walk, where not to step, what it will give if we give in return. The island does not talk, the eldest said, but he said it quietly, as if he suspected otherwise. It talks, I said, in the same way rivers talk, with inclination. I pointed at the path our feet had found without trying. See? We've been listening all day. And third, I concluded, we make breakfast again tomorrow morning on a fire that smells just like this one, and think our next thoughts then. Never trust a plan made by men who have just invented a shoreline. They stared at me, then at the fire, then at the island, which was now wearing evening very becomingly. The sky had already begun boiling the gold into peach, simmering the peach into apricot, slipping a great blue in along the edges for contrast. The first star pried open one bright eye. That's not a plan, the eldest said, but he said it with less conviction than this morning. It's a bedtime story, I said, and bedtime stories are the best kind of plan. We stayed until the trees made black lace against the navy sky and the beach, which had been warm as bread, cooled to the temperature of whispered secrets. The tide scribbled gentle notes at our feet and took them back before we could read them. The wind cleared its throat and tried on the voices it would use after midnight. We pushed the canoe into the water, and the sea welcomed it with that soft, certain lift. We paddled with the night's patience. Behind us, the island glowed a faint, proud darkness. Ahead, the old shore waited, already smaller in our minds. The youngest glanced back, as if to make sure it didn't slip away like a mirage. It's real, I told him. Some things are more real for being unbelievable. And tomorrow? The middle asked. Tomorrow, I said, we will confess to the village that we have committed an act of accidental cartography, and then we will make a map, and then we will make breakfast, and then we will make friends. And your hook? The eldest asked, suspicion on a low simmer. I patted the cloth-wrapped curve tucked under the thwart. It purred as if pleased with the day's work. My hook is going to sleep, I promised, because it did a very big thing and deserves to dream. We slid across the silver path the moon painted for us. The paddles lifted and fell. The canoe sighed. The brothers breathed in unison, that steady rhythm that invites dreams to climb aboard and sit in the bow for the ride home. If your eyes are heavy now, let them be. The ocean has you. The night has you. The story has you, and it knows the way. And me? I am practicing how to be ordinary again. I am straightening my handsome shirt and rehearsing the face I will wear when asked, "What did you do today, Maui?" "Nothing much," I will say. "Just went fishing." But you and I both know, between the hush of the sea and the purr of a sleeping hook, that's not the whole of it. Tomorrow I'll tell the rest. And if the island asks for a name, I'll ask it what name it already carries inside itself. And if the ocean scolds, I'll say sorry and mean it. And if my brothers say no Maui again, I will try to hear what they're really asking. Be gentle, be careful, be ours too. For now, listen to the water knock softly on the hull, the way small waves ask little questions and are satisfied by small answers. Feel the canoe rock the baby, smell the salt and the cool and the wood and the night. Let your breath be the tide. Sleep comes in on little feet. I will keep the watch.